right, everybody, unhappy Friday. Coming to you live once again from my very humble abode here in Fairfield, Ohio. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio, part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us from wherever you may be and whatever service you're using to tune in. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if, God forbid, you are still stuck at work at this hour on a Friday. Crack open a cold one if you've got the opportunity. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being part of the almighty weekend. Sorry, I almost went back to the whole Wednesday spiel where it was look forward to tomorrow being Friday Eve. Maybe we'll get back to that at some point. But anyways, let's put an end to this week's hostage situation and welcome in another almighty weekend. Russ Taylor in the room says he is at the bar with his new hat. Can't participate today. Love the new hats, brother. You see right up there, I've got you inspired that. Saw it when I was in Philly at Reading and grabbed that up. So Keaton Harmon in the room. That music needs to crawl in whole and decompose. I don't disagree. Andy Bagley in the room. Good evening, roomies, and happy Friday. And I'm so happy for baseball night like I always am. Let's go, Phils. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, we are going to keep it mostly baseball tonight. Okay. The boner of the week will be a little different. It'll be off subject it'll be off baseball. And really, it's not sports. But you'll get a kick out of it anyways as I try to entertain you on this Friday evening for an hour-ish. Not sure how long we'll go. I say that all the time, and then we're always here for an hour. But I do have beer I want to drink, and I'm going to drink it while I'm on the show. But had a great finish to my work day today. The biggest part of the finish was on the ride home. And for those of you who are coming out to Cincinnati for the game in October, I will be happy to share all that information with you when you get your ass out here. Or if you have my personal number, no problem. Anyways, who else in the room? Joyce Russ says hello, my mother. How you doing, Mom? Had the phone call. What was it, last weekend? Good to talk to you. So hope everything's going well. And here he is. So for those of you who don't know, and you'd have to be living under a rock if you don't know who our illustrious defender of freedom is. Captain Demps has tried to take on this new, persona of baseball cap. I've tried to call bullshit, but he's actually putting in an effort to push this thing. So we're going to support him on that until such time as he proves to not really be baseball cap. So Keenan Harmon, good evening, Defender Demps. Absolutely. What's up, Keenan? All right, folks, let's get down to the business real quick. And this, I'm happy to read this every week, and I know my wife is not. She's just sitting in the garage right now, having a drink with our friend next door, and I'm hoping he's listening too. So, folks, in case you weren't listening, last week was the first time we did this, but this show is now under the Green Legion sponsorship for Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia, just minutes away from the sports complex. Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages, open 7 days a week from noon to 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980 and reserve a private booth. Party package. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drink and food specials, and a premium selection of cigars in a cigar lounge. If you're looking for a place to watch your favorite sporting event, head on out to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980. think we nailed it again. And then business as usual. Folks, if you're tuning in on Facebook or Twitter, please do not forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the Green Legion. If those services are where you're more comfortable, we totally get it. But ask anyone in the room here, the YouTube channel is the best way to view, listen, and comment on any Green Legion radio show that we stream live. So please do us a solid, even if you're more comfortable on one of those other services. Go ahead and head on over to YouTube, search the Green Legion, subscribe, hit your little bell for notifications, and no matter what service you're watching on, no matter what service you subscribe on, we want you to subscribe on every service that we have. Please make sure you are sharing all of it everywhere, every chance you get. We want to flood the interwebs with the Green Legion and with Green Legion Radio. The Unhappy Gilmore Show, as I said a few minutes ago, and as we said last week, and as Quimby graciously announced the week before when we talked, I'm sorry, mind blank, when we talked schedule release, we are under the sponsorship for Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, but doesn't stop there. We're always looking for more sponsorship, right? And for this show, very small monetary commitment. And what that gets you is, it gets you advertisement across all of our social media channels. It gets you live reads on all of our shows. And it's a small monetary commitment. And it's for a year to be reviewed at the end of said year, not to ask for any kind of increase, but just to make sure that the mutual partnership is benefiting both sides, of course. So please, if you know anyone in the Philadelphia area, if any of my friends in Connecticut are looking for some additional advertisement, Philly, Connecticut, Tampa, Florida, here in Ohio, anywhere that the Green Legion reaches, if you're looking for some additional advertisement, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll try to get something set up. So there's your business. Back over to the room here. Keenan Harmon, excellent live read. Adam Quimby would be proud. Thank you, Keenan. Very much appreciate that. Last week was my first time doing it, and I wrote that myself. So I asked for the live read. As you can imagine, this time of year, Green Legion staff incredibly busy, especially coming up here, leaving Monday for that trip to London for the Phils. So I eventually just went onto the Cheerleaders website, grabbed their information, and just wrote that myself. So I hope it does all right. I didn't hear anything negative last week, so we're just going to keep running with it until we're told otherwise. But thank you, Keenan. I very much appreciate that. Andy Bagley, I've heard they have good food there. Yeah. Heard the breasts are really good. 3-0 Phils, bottom of the second, and that machine just keeps on rolling. So, how the hell are all of you? Listen, I say it all the time that we may do a shorter show. It may be, it may be 45 minutes, might be an hour. I say it all the time, and we always go an hour plus. Tonight may be that shorter show. We're sticking to baseball, but a little bit of kind of what we'll call potpourri to go around a little bit. I think all of you are up to date on what's going on football-wise, right? This is the time of year where you have the voluntary mini camps, but apart from that, unless you're closely following the Kansas City Chiefs and the police blotter, you don't really, there's just not a whole hell of a lot going on NFL-wise. Hockey playoffs have been fantastic. Very exciting games to watch. Western and Eastern Conference finals going on right now. The Rangers, golden opportunity last night to seize control of the series. Tied 2-2. Game at the Garden, and you lose that game. Now you're headed to Florida tomorrow. And if I was a betting man, I would bet on the Panthers tomorrow night. They have been the better team all throughout the series. Their forecheck, and I don't know how well versed you guys are with hockey, but their forecheck, which is where they're pressing the offensive zone, the Rangers' defensive zone, has been just absolutely amazing. They are ultra aggressive on that front. And what that does to the Rangers or to whoever they're playing is it gasses the lines that are out there. So when you do finally clear your zone and you actually get some sort of opportunity in the Panther zone, you're either ready for a line change or the line that's out there is just gassed. And it's very, very impressive. They're extraordinarily well coached. They stick to their game plan and they do not panic. Take last night, for example. They're on the power play. Rangers pick up a shorthanded goal with Chris Kreider. Then immediately following that power play, the Panthers commit a penalty. And I mean, that Madison Square Garden crowd was rocking. Up 1-0 on a shorthander by, the best player on the team. And now you're on the power play. The Rangers' power play has been deadly all year and throughout the playoffs until this series. And no panic by the Panthers. They kill the penalty. They end up tying the game. And then they seize control. And that's just what they do. They just grind you out. And, throughout the series, for the entire series, I would tell you Rangers goalie Igor Shesterkin has been the best player on the ice. But it's not like Sergei Bobrovsky has been, the Panthers goalie has been that much less. He's faced much fewer shots. But ultimately, he's done his job, and he's done it very well. So the Panthers take control in that pivotal Game 5 last night, and they look very poised to wrap up that series at home tomorrow. On the other side, in the Western Conference, we have, where the hell is it? We have Edmonton and Dallas tied at 2-2. That puck will drop at 8:30 tonight. Dallas, kind of the same thing, very physical team. Edmonton, of course, relies on the superstar. So, it's not going to surprise me if the NHL, if the Stanley Cup Finals end up being Dallas versus Florida. In which case, even though it would have been Florida knocking out the Rangers, I will still root for the Florida Panthers, and that is in support of our great friends Lou Dominguez and Ashley. So there's your hockey. As far as the NBA, we're decided now. It's Boston. It's the Boston Celtics versus the Dallas Mavericks. I can tell you wholeheartedly that my hate and disdain for every Boston sports team far outweighs my dislike for Kyrie Irving. Also with that, I do happen to like Luka Doncic. I don't care for the whole I don't play defense thing, but what that man does offensively is absolutely incredible. And really, after games, he just wants to drink a bunch of beer. And you can kind of tell he's not cut. It doesn't appear to be in the greatest shape, but man, he can shoot that rock. So I'll be rooting for Dallas in that series, as tough, and I know that sounds weird. I'll be rooting for Dallas. You would never do it in football, obviously, but it's just totally different. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I hate all things Boston sports. So let's go Mavs. If I had to guess on that one, I don't know. The Celtics, if they get Porzingis back, they're going to be tough regardless, because Jaylen Brown turns it up to a higher level come this time of year, and Jason Tatum can take over a game at any point. They're already a huge handful to deal with, and if you add Porzingis back to that mix, I don't know what Dallas can do to defend that. On the flip side, ideally, if you're Boston, you would have liked to still have Marcus Smart so that you could hopefully lock him up on Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving. They decided to, switch things up and bring in Porzingis. So I think it could be an interesting series. I don't know that it goes past 6 games, one way or the other. But, when I don't have a dog in the fight, I just want to see good basketball being played. So there's your kind of potpourri there. And again, the NFL, guys, it's the downtime right now. So we all got our, Green Legion trips are coming out. A lot of you saw that information about the flights for the New Orleans trip. So your chartered flights, and then an additional option for a domestic flight with, I think there's one stop on that one, but it's only $290. So I'll see you down there in September. If you're coming down, can't wait to see you. If you're coming out here to Cincinnati, I will see you then. You can guarantee that. And before we get to the boner of the week, I'm going to step away for just 1 minute, and we will give you some different music to listen to because everyone hates the stuff that I usually, the rock one. So let's try this one. That's terrible too. How about this one? Yeah. I'll be back in less than a minute. All right, so that was awful too. They don't really have really good house stuff, but we'll try to mix it up week to week. Keenan says much better. My ears don't hurt. Keenan again. Green Legion staff is all at the Jersey Shore. Fanny joins the room. How you doing, darling? Great to see you. Okay, so we will hop on over to the boner of the week. And like I mentioned at the open of the show, for the first time since we started doing this portion of the show, the boner of the week, I think it's going to be the first time where it's actually not sports related. Okay. Usually we try to keep it sports related. We try to keep the whole thing sports related, whether it's me throwing a fit or, something like that, which we haven't had a good rant in a while, but we're going to get to the baseball here and I'm sure that'll open up something. So we do try to keep it sports related all the way through. And it's not like there were no candidates this week. I mean, we could have gone with the Chiefs, another player in trouble with the law, right? I mean, it's going to sound harsh, but is Andy Reid starting to run his team like he ran his household? Too soon? But no, seriously, guys and girls, sometimes there's someone that does or says something, even outside of sports, that's just really stupid, that we have to go outside the sports world to give them their flowers, I guess you would call it, for this award, right? A little background on this one first. So if you guys remember last summer, I think it was June, there was that Titan submersible that was operated by the tourism company Ocean Gate that was going to take 5 people down to the Titanic site. Super Sam, how you doing? Sam, somebody had connected the Green Legion 2.0. So I went ahead and just screw it and used that. I know we're kind of done with that, but the other one is still not working, Sam. When I went to go set up the show, that message was still up there saying it had lost connection to your Facebook account. So I don't know what the hell the deal is. But this is the 2.0 one that's connected to this broadcast. Took a chance. If I was wrong, go ahead and slap me over the head before it. But there was that Titan submersible operated by Ocean Gate, was taking 5 people down to the Titanic site. Right, it was like 4 billionaires, and one of them brought their kid, and it imploded on its way down. Right, and apparently not too far into the trip, it just imploded. So a little extra background here, and it's going to be kind of gross. So you guys know an explosion is outward, and implosion is where it kind of crushes inward, and that's from the pressure diving down to depths of the ocean. So what happens when an implosion, when you explode, there are people in there, it's just everything just poof, and goes all over the place. The implosion, a little worse. So it implodes, and the description is that the people in there actually turn into like paste or jelly or some sort of mayonnaise or peanut butter. I don't know, but that was the description. So that unfortunately happened to those 5 people last year. Look, personally, the only one I really feel terrible for is the kid. You know, he went with his father as like a Father's Day thing, and you know, it's terrible. It killed all 5 on board. Despite numerous reports from industry experts at that time having concerns about the safety of the vessel, OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, who was on the vessel, refused to get the Titan certified, instead arguing that excessive safety protocols and regulations hindered innovation. I hope they put that on your gravestone, because real good call, dude. Yeah, smart. So now let's flash forward a year to present time, where Dayton, Ohio, about an hour north of here, Dayton, Ohio billionaire Larry Connor is apparently going to take a $20 million submersible of his own to Titanic level depths. Anybody starting to see what's wrong here? A little background on Larry. He's the founder and managing partner of the Connor Group, which if you've ever rented or are currently renting, I would 1,000,000,000% advise you to stay the hell away from any property managed by them. There are horror stories everywhere, some from people who I know personally in this area, on how they treat their tenants, how they manage the upkeep, and just continuously, drastically increasing the rent cost year over year. So it's kind of a scumbag operation. Now, this head scumbag, we'll call him that, is going to take what's called the Triton 4000 Abyssal Explorer, which is a 2-person submersible listed on the company's website for $20 million. The 4,000 represents how deep the sub can dive in meters per the national news site. For reference, the Titanic sits at 3,800, roughly 3,800 meters. Okay, so let's back up a bit here. You had a 5-person submersible that dove down and imploded not long after its initial dive. If you remember, there was claims of a search, but then later reports broke that the actual U.S. Navy had heard in the water what sounded like an implosion. And these are, military trained individuals who are, they know what they're hearing. And so the timestamp on that is, it's not long after the initial dive. So that turns all 5 people into sludge in the ocean, right? Plankton fodder at that point. Now this dude is going to take a 2-person submersible, and he's doing this. So, you're going to push the limits of this thing's capacity. The 4,000 represents how deep it can dive. And you're going to take it to Titanic level depths, which are only 200 meters shy of the max for said vessel. Anybody else starting to get a little bit of picture of what might go wrong here? Right? Now, give Connor his credit. He is known for explorations to the Mariana Trench and the International Space Station. So I would tell you, him versus Stockton Rush sounds like Larry Connor may have a little bit more insight. So yes, he's done all those things. Yes, he basically prints his own money. Yes, it's also very likely that he and his team learned from the Ocean Gate disaster. But like I said, it's also pushing the absolute limits of this vessel just a year after this disaster. And honestly, he claims he's doing this to, and I quote, prove that the personal sub industry is safe. Last year proved it wasn't. Okay, so now you think you're going to get in a two-person sub, dive down there, and everything's fine. What do you think is going to be the result of this? I only see this ending one of two ways. Either one, that whole 4,000 meter thing is a rough estimate, and this thing implodes when it gets down to Titanic level depths, and we're further proven that maybe private sector folks shouldn't screw around in this arena, regardless of how much money they have. Or two, it's successful, and what is that going to do? That's going to invite a whole horde of people who don't have anything else to do with billions of dollars to buy their own submersibles and just go diving around the ocean all over the place. And what's going to happen then? Somebody's going to lose control. Somebody is going to screw up. Some system is going to fail. People are going to die, is what's going to happen. Okay? So congratulations, Larry Connor. It's not bad enough that your property management group is about the biggest group of scumbags on the face of the earth, as far as rental properties. Now you're going to try to prove that anyone and everyone who has the financial capability should be able to hop in a submersible and just go cruising around the ocean wherever. Look, I'm all about pioneering things, okay? I get it. It's what this country was built on. But to do this a year after 5 people lost their lives, including a teenage kid, is absolute lunacy, okay? And not only that, to purchase the 4,000 model and then push that to its limits to try to prove that anyone with enough financial capability should do the same thing is easily my boner of the week. He could be the boner of the century if this thing implodes on him. And I can tell you right now, there's a guy who I work with who's a good dude that had to move out of the apartment he was in because the Connor group jacked him around too much. We've got plenty of other friends that have dealt with that as well. There will not be as many people sad if he dives down there and either it implodes or you have system failure and this dipshit is just sitting at the bottom of the ocean, just, whatever. Eventually you're going to run out of oxygen, Larry. Congratulations. For all your money and all your worth, you're going to dive to the bottom of the ocean a year after it looked like we probably shouldn't be screwing around with that and put your own life at risk. Look, I think that's the cherry on top for the boner of the week, right? You are a billionaire. You basically print your own money. And what are you going to do with it? Well, I am going to get into a 2-person sub and try to go down to Titanic level depths. Why? If I was a billionaire, the last place you would find me is trying to dive to the bottom of the ocean. Oh, I might be at the ocean on the beach with a drink in my hand, with my toes in the water and ass in the sand. That's where you would find billionaire unhappy Gilmore. Not trying to pioneer some new industry. If I was going to pioneer something, it wouldn't be anything that put my life at risk. Period. And you can call me a wuss, you can call me whatever you want. But at that point, you would still call me alive and you would still call me rich. So I don't really give a shit. Congratulations, Larry. Could have given you the boner of the week every week for your horrible property management group, but sir, this week you have earned it. All right. So there's your boner of the week. I saw Fanny over here. She says, disclaimer, everyone from Dayton is not like that. No, Fanny, I'm quite sure you're not. And our great friend David Conant, who just joined the room as well, he is from up that way too, and he is not like that. So we fully know that it is not a demographic thing. It is a Larry Connor problem. Keenan Harmon, how stupid would I be with a couple $1,000,000? I sure would like to find out. Yeah, I would like to test those waters. Pun intended. Fanny, yeah, he could put that money to better use here in Dayton. He could put it to better use anywhere. My mother, Joyce Russ. Guess Larry thinks he's Harry Houdini. Captain Demp, stupid is as stupid does with the uber rich. Ain't that the truth? There he is, David Conant. Larry Connor is a complete douche and an asshole. Well, that about sums it up. Mike English joins the room. B-Doc, yes. This is one of my favorites. It's like a jersey hoodie thing. I love it. And he's at the Phils game, so chatting. Very nice. Well, thank you for taking the time to hop in here while you're at the Phils game. Give us those live updates when you get them. We are going to hop into baseball here in just a second as soon as I do this. And I have a feeling there might be an individual who may actually join us this week. I don't know. David Conant says he's firsthand. Oh, nope, we don't want to do that one. David Conant says firsthand experience with the Connor Group. Yeah, I mean, look, they're huge. They own a lot of properties, so a lot of people rent from places controlled by them, and they're terrible. So, anyways, look, the StreamYard link is up. Okay, so we are going to move into baseball here. I talked about it last week. Been talking about it for a couple of weeks. And you guys know, those of you that have been following the show for the over 2 years that we've been doing this, we don't like to take our first pulse of that, of the baseball season until June 1st. Well, June 1st is a Saturday, so we're going to do it today. And having teased it last week and then seen what has transpired over the course of this week, I was hoping to come on here and just talk about, hey, the Phillies are off to a great start. My Yankees are off to a great start. They're the two best records in baseball, so on and so forth. Well, there's something we've got to address first, and it is baseball related. And I will tell you, even if we weren't going to do this show about baseball, this was going to be a topic tonight anyways, because it's important to the sports world. And because it's baseball, it's pretty near and dear to my heart. So, I couldn't have picked a better week to go into to have a show with just talking some baseball. Major League Baseball has recently decided to now include all Negro League stats into Major League Baseball stats. So, guys who played in both, like Jackie Robinson, like a Willie Mays. Willie Mays picked up 10 hits. But they're also counting those stats, even if it was all Negro League, stacked up with Major League Baseball. All right? Now, needless to say, unless you've been living under a rock, this has been an extremely polarizing subject over the last few days. And I'm not going to dance around this. Here at Green Legion Radio, when I was first offered to do this, I asked what our limitations were, and I was told we don't shy away from anything. So I'm not going to shy away from this. And it has been. It's been a very polarizing topic all this week. I pay very close attention to this stuff. I know some of you are, even if you're not, huge baseball fans, you are paying attention. You do see this stuff. And this goes beyond just, who did the Phillies play last night? Who did the Yankees play last night? This is about Major League Baseball as a whole. Of course, the first thing out of the gates, the biggest number that folks have been arguing about is the Josh Gibson career batting average, listed at 373, which would make him the all-time leader ahead of Ty Cobb, who is listed at 366 or 367, depending on what site you look at. I go with baseballreference.com, which has him at 366 point whatever. When you go by that baseball reference site, which we pretty much all use it, whether it's baseball reference, pro football reference, basketball reference, those reference sites are just huge compilations of every stat you can think of. Your normal everyday stats that we all talk about. And then also they have in there your advanced metrics. Okay. Keaton, is it the Suzuki slow pitch? No. Although Captain Demps thinks he can homer off him. But back to the reference side here. Baseball Reference, their criteria for career leaders in hitting is a minimum of 3,000 plate appearances. Okay? It's really not that much when you look at the grand scheme of things. Like you take, a guy batting leadoff might have 700 of them a season. So you're talking 4 to 5 years and you qualify. By that metric, Josh Gibson does not qualify. He only registered 2,526 plate appearances. Now, it's not extremely shy of the number. And look, 373 is 373. I get it. But if everyone's being held to the same standard, it's not there. Okay? The site does note that Negro League stats do not include exhibitions and barnstorming. They include the league/interleague and versus top level independent Negro League teams. Okay. It also states that research is ongoing and updates will continue as more data is collected. Now, look, I don't want you guys to start getting a negative feeling here, okay? Because I've been thinking about this all week as I was reading more and more and how much arguing is going on. And of course, you've got your normal, what does it turn into right away? It turns into a racial argument, which I cannot stand. And I'm kind of skipping ahead through my notes here, but it bothers me. We've all been aware that the record keeping for Negro League Baseball was poor. It was not good. Okay. Now, obviously, some of that was they just didn't have the same resources that Major League Baseball did, of no fault of their own. Okay. In no part of this segment of the show are you going to hear me say that things should have been segregated in the first place, because it should never have been. Everyone should have been able to play baseball together at the same time throughout the sport's entire history. Okay. And for every person who's saying you should not include the Negro League stats, the rebuttal I see is also, well, why are you including the Federal League and, and all of these other leagues that are and have been included, I think, since the 60s. So eventually this was probably going to happen. But some of the stats are a little bit outlandish, okay? Like, I think before we start to consider whether or not somebody's just being a stick in the mud or a get off my lawn guy, or if some folks are actually being racist about it, I think you need to really take a look at some of the actual numbers that are being included now, okay? So I'm going to give you an example. The supposed new single season batting average record is by Titelo Vargas in 1943 at the age of 37. Does anyone care to guess what that batting average was? Keep in mind, for those of you who know baseball and even only know slightly, like baseball cap, you know that a 300 batting average is considered good. right? So I'll give you a second. Think about it. Don't go Google it, being cheap shots about it. But think about this. It's a 37-year-old man in 1943 who supposedly now is going to be the record holder for highest single season batting average at 471. 471. That's like pre-1900s type of numbers. It exceeds that. Back in your dead ball era where pitchers basically threw to contact. He says as I'm Googling, I knew somebody was going to do it. By comparison, Ted Williams, who is widely regarded as the greatest overall hitter in the game's history when you look at his batting average and his home runs, his prowess at the plate. He tallied the last season, up until the inclusion of Negro League stats, he had tallied the last season with a batting average over 400 in 1941 when he hit a mere 406. To think that a guy 2 years later than that and older, 37 years old, you're talking 12 to 15 years older than Williams was in 1941, had a batting average of 471. Look, when you start, and this is what I'm trying to encourage everyone to do. Let's not jump at the stats right away. Take a look at them and really try to put it in perspective. When you start to dissect some of this stuff, okay, it does have the appearance of a couple of things. One we already know about. The record keeping was poor. It was just not done well. And again, like I said before, not the entire fault of the folks doing that for the Negro Leagues. They played less games. They had less funding. They were not treated fairly. They stayed in shittier places. It was treated as a substandard, you're not good enough type of thing, which was wrong. Okay? But I think another thing that we can probably put our cap on is if this guy really did hit 471 in 1943 at the age of 37 years old, I think it's pretty safe to also think that the overall pitching in said league was just not that good. Okay? I know you have your Satchel Pages and guys like that, but overall, it's hard to imagine that the pitching was all that great. Okay? If you let's just, say modern day. Let's say you took Bryce Harper, who right now is batting 266. Okay? Coming into today's game. And you put him over in Japan. Bryce Harper would probably bat 400 in Japan. Okay? Or 350, 370. It would be some huge number. And that's just because the overall pitching talent isn't as good as it is here. All right? It's just reality. Okay? Now, I'm also going to say, this is not to say that guys like Tatello Vargas, Cool Papa Bell, Josh Gibson, Jackie Robinson, this is not to say that these players would not have hit. Let me start again. This is not to say that these players wouldn't have still hit well had they been allowed to play in Major League Baseball. What I'm trying to do here is just give an understanding that their numbers likely would not have been as high had they played in Major League Baseball, had it all been integrated right from the start like it damn well should have been. Okay? I'm not even saying this guy wouldn't have batted 400. 471 is outrageous, particularly by the time 1943 rolls around. Okay? Look, what I am already tired of and will always be tired of is people immediately jumping to call each other racists for questioning one thing or the other. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, needs to realize that it is perfectly okay to have different opinions. Things can be questioned without the person being a fucking racist. Okay? It doesn't always come down to that. And you don't have the right, and I don't care what side of the fence you sit on, you don't have the right to turn around and call someone a racist just because their friggin' opinion differs from yours. I just gave you mine. I flat out gave you mine. Poor record keeping and the pitching staff not being as good. That's why the batting averages were higher. No question in my mind. Right? I am willing to have a conversation about it. What you don't get to do is call me a racist for it. Because honestly, the data backs me up. Now, are there people out there who are just trying to race bait and just trying to poke at it and feed hate? Of course there are. There are douchebags like that all over the place. But leave baseball alone. You want to be like that, get into the political arena where it's been like that for decades as it is. Get the fuck off my diamond and stop messing with baseball. You're not a racist for telling me that Josh Gibson is the all-time leader in batting average. That's your opinion. This is your data to support it, and that's what you stand by. I am not a racist for telling you that he faced weaker pitching overall, had some poor record keeping, and didn't have enough plate appearances to qualify. It's two different opinions. Okay? That's all it is. That's all it ever is. Except for the folks that want to race bait. Right? Plenty of redneck white trash out there doing it. Plenty of people like Jamel Hill out there doing it too. Okay? Doesn't make it all right. And you don't get to do that and get away with it because I won't stand for it and I will call you on your shit. It's been my experience throughout my life that the people who immediately snap to that and are so quick to call someone a racist are actually the racists themselves. Okay? Now, I do try to find the silver lining in pretty much everything. And there is a silver lining to this as well, despite how polarizing and negative energy it has unfortunately produced. I blame social media for a lot of it because it's given people an avenue to run their little candy ass mouth without any recourse of getting punched in said mouth. When I was a kid and I ran my mouth like that, I got beat up for it. And that happened more times than I was willing to admit. That I'm willing to admit, okay? That I'm willing to talk about or that I can remember. The silver lining, as any good baseball fan knows, the current league is dominated mostly by your Latino ball players, right? And it's awesome. The product on the field is fantastic. Something else to keep in mind, though, from a demographic standpoint, is the fact that the percentage of the player pool who are African American has been falling off a cliff for a very long time now. Okay? And this is not good for the game. It's just not. The more diverse the player pool is, the stronger the future of the game is. You want everyone to play baseball, be involved in baseball, and pass that passion on from generation to generation. Most of us, when we were kids, the first sport you played, real team sport, was baseball. Most of us. Now, in recent years, Major League Baseball has been, I guess, trying would be the way to put it, to reconnect with the African-American population. Most notably, having Ken Griffey Jr. head up kind of that division and that part of the program to kind of reinvigorate that demographic to get more involved in the game. Right. And I'm not trying to say there's no black players out there. I mean, Aaron Judge is the best player on the Yankees. Right. He's one of the top 3 to 5 players in baseball. Mookie Betts, same thing. What baseball doesn't do well is market their stars. Okay. Unless you're in New York or in LA, it's terrible. But creating a division, creating a program, putting Ken Griffey Jr. at the head of it. Who doesn't love Ken Griffey Jr.? It shows that they at least recognize that losing that demographic is definitely not good for the sport. They recognize that they have pretty much lost that demographic and trying to get it back. Okay? So, in closing for this segment here, I'm not going to try to cheapen the Negro League stats being added into the Major League numbers. But to put a positive spin on this, I do think it's plenty reasonable to believe that Major League Baseball, at least in part, might be doing this to gain some favor. And I don't think that's a bad thing, okay? Look, those ball players should never have been left out of the major leagues to begin with, okay? And the stars of those leagues would have competed well in Major League Baseball. And it was proven once Jackie broke the barrier, right? He's Rookie of the Year that year. A couple years later, he's the MVP of the league. Elston Howard was an amazing catcher. And just go throughout the years. Ricky Henderson is the greatest leadoff hitter to ever step on a baseball field, right? It's not all just Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, and Ted Williams. You know, it would have been great for Josh Gibson to have had his opportunities. However, if you read about Josh Gibson, he was not, and he would get a little wild, I guess is the best way to put it. But that doesn't make him any, who does that make him different than? Ty Cobb, there's all kinds of stories about him. Babe Ruth was out carousing, womanizing, drunk off his ass. One of my favorite Babe Ruth stories. One of my favorites, and I've read one of the biographies, a couple of the biographies about him. Yanks are in Chicago, taking on the White Sox. And the Babe is on a hot streak. And after this, I'll post the StreamYard link one more time. We'll talk about the Phils and the Yanks for a minute, and then we're going to get out of here. So the Babe is on, he's just tearing the cover off the ball. And the Yanks roll into Chicago. And the Babe is just crushing shit. So the Chicago White Sox, as a team, get together and they say, we got to do something to slow down the Babe. All right, let's take him out, get him all hammered, keep him out all night. He'll be all hungover or still drunk or whatever. And, that'll slow him down. So they do that. And the next day they get to the game. And the Babe's a mess, right? He's still drunk. He shows up smoking stogies. He's trying to buy hot dogs from vendors. And he gets up there, and I can't forget if it was can't remember if it was 2 or 3 home runs he hits that game. But on the last one, he rounds third base and looks into the Chicago White Sox dugout and puts his arms out and says, "Where are we going tonight, boys?" So Josh Gibson gets judged a bit for his character off the field, that he wasn't stable, that he may have had a mental issue that would cause him to, drink too much and lose his shit. But let's not act like Babe Ruth was the patron saint here. All right. I mean, Babe Ruth is credited with saving baseball or, creating an era of baseball that was very much needed. But, do I think of Josh Gibson and a Satchel Paige? Satchel Paige took the mound at 56 years old and pitched 3 scoreless innings for the Cleveland Indians against major league hitters. Imagine what that guy looked like in his 20s. It was obvious the stars of the Negro Leagues could have competed, would have competed well, and should have been afforded that opportunity on a day in and day out basis. All right. But do I think that Major League Baseball is, at least in part, doing this to gain some favor with the African American demographic? Yes, I absolutely do. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Anything we can do to make the player pool more diverse, it's a good thing. So that's my spiel. That went on a little bit longer than I was anticipating it would. Jump over to the room here, and then we're going to talk your fills, and then we're going to get out of here. Keenan Harmon. Baseball is slowly becoming interesting. Learned this week that in the beginning, fielders didn't use gloves and foul balls were in strikes. It's very true. The rules have changed. Joyce Russ, between poor record keeping and pitching ability at the time, the stats really need to be investigated to be accurate. And that's what I'm saying. And the problem is there's no way to investigate it. You're talking about very, very old statistics at this point, and there's just really no way to do it. So you got to take what's there for what it's worth and then decide how you think that should stack up against guys who had 12,000 plate appearances, like a Ty Cobb. So it's just, you take it however you want, but it doesn't make you a racist to question things. I didn't raise no racist. No, you did not. You might have raised a bit of an asshole, but racist, no. So I consider myself an equal opportunity. I can love or hate any of you equally. Captain Dems love the fired up Gilmore. Well, look, man, it's a subject that I'm really passionate about. All right. I think it's a joke that people immediately jump to calling people racist for stupid shit like this. It's just a difference of opinion. Just because I don't see things the way that another guy does doesn't mean I hate him. Doesn't mean he has to hate me. If he chooses to, that's his fucking problem. That just means I'm living rent-free in that coconut is. All right, let's get that StreamYard link up there one more time as we close up the show with some Phil's talk. And here I was once again talking about not going an hour, and here we are at an hour. That's all right. I love you guys. I really do. I love coming on here every week. It's a small niche audience that comments anyways. We do end up getting quite a few viewers and stuff. I just, some weeks it's 1,000, 1,500. We had some weeks a couple of months ago where we were, 2,500, 3,000, but only the small group actually comments. And I love all of you for it. I really do. Can't thank you enough for that week in and week out. All right, folks, let's rejoice, right? We get off all the stats stuff and, the bickering and the bigotry and whatever the hell you want to call it. But baseball fans everywhere should rejoice this week. Yes, if you were disgusted by the Negro League stats being added, well, that's a you problem. I can't tell you I feel. I think my personal opinion is I may have left it alone, but I get why it was done. But that's just, it's whatever. But the rejoice factor. While stats thing has been polarizing this week, there is one thing which is not. Whether you are for the stats being included, whether you're against them, whether you think Josh Gibson was the greatest hitter ever, or you think it was Babe Ruth. Another announcement this week that we can all get behind was the firing of umpire Angel Hernandez. For those of you who don't know who he is, and especially you Phillies fans who would have to have been living under a rock to not know who Angel Hernandez is, probably the worst umpire on the planet ever. This guy sucked. He was terrible. This is the umpire when Schwarber got tossed, and when Schwarber flipped out, spiked his helmet through his bat, he's marching around the plate going like this. That's Angel Hernandez. that was the umpire. He was the Boner of the Week recipient last year after his failed attempt at suing Major League Baseball because, as he claimed, he was left off of postseason and World Series opportunities because of his race. That was the claim he made, and then the reports came out showing his grades as an umpire, which were atrocious. So I could show you a video. I mean, you could just after the show, stay on YouTube, Angel Hernandez highlight, lowlights, whatever. The very best of Angel Hernandez, bad calls, whatever you want. And just look at how bad he is. He's the same umpire who at that point in that game is the third base umpire. When Bryce Harper checks his swing, they appeal down the third, and Hernandez rings him up, and Harper loses his shit. That's also Angel Hernandez, which is why I said, if you're a Phillies fan, you don't know who Hernandez is, you'd have to have been living under a rock. Now, if we could also get rid of CB Buckner, maybe Joe West, those sorts of guys, we're doing even better. David Conant. Good news is Joe West, who is known to only be slightly better than Hernandez, said he did his job well. Yeah, if he's talking about Angel Hernandez pissing people off, then I would say Angel Hernandez did his job excellent. I 100% agree with Joe West. But anyways, if you're a baseball fan, this is fantastic news. Because I fully believe that at least since that lawsuit got dismissed. Yeah, Dave, I know. I think I knew Joe West retired, but it was just more fun to talk shit about him anyways. But at least since that lawsuit had gotten dismissed, I full on believe that Angel Hernandez was doing some of this shit on purpose, completely out of spite. And he was absolutely terrible at his job. Now, let's get over to your Phillies before we close out tonight. Okay? So, like I teased during the show, I'll start with the Yankees. Coming in today, the Philadelphia Phillies were 39-18, a half game ahead of my Yankees at 39-19, the two best records in baseball, right? But the Phillies are the top spot. Yankees, you heard my preseason stuff when we did the show with Lou and Chris Sack. I did not expect much from this team this year, especially once the reports of Garrett Cole came out, who I still don't know is going to pitch this year. And I still believe it'll end up being a problem. And now you see Clark Schmidt is going on IL. But at 39-19, I can't really complain. Aaron Judge may be the best player in baseball over this past month after a horrendous start. But got to give the Phillies their flowers, guys. 39-18, you are the best team in baseball. You are up 6.5 games on the Braves. This is all coming into play today. You're up 6.5 on the Braves, who lost Spencer Strider before this, who may very well be the best starting pitcher in baseball. And now have just lost Ronald Acuna for the year as well. Last year's MVP, who batted .330 with 40-plus homers and 70-plus stolen bases. Now, the Braves, they'll likely still finish second in that division, but that's strictly because the Mets are horrible, the Nationals are bad, and unfortunately for our good friends Lou and Ashley, those Marlins, I mean, their pitching staff got absolutely decimated by injuries, but they are terrible. So 39-18. Dave Conant, and with that, you're out. Why? Where are you running away from? He doesn't want to hear about the Phillies. But I got to give you your flowers, right? So what's the biggest problem the Phillies have had the last two seasons? Right? Despite the enormous amount of talent on that team, and despite the fact that we come on here and talk about how much fun they are to watch, how talented they are, despite the fact that baseball brunch was giving you everything you needed to know about how really talented that team is. The slow starts the last 2 years have made things very difficult for the Phillies. In 2022, through 57 games, you were 28 and 29 and had just started to get hot after firing Joe Girardi. Right? And putting Philly Rob in that spot. In 2023, last season, through 57 games, you were 25 and 32. Right? So really bad. 4th place at that point. Obviously, in 2022, you rebounded after firing Girardi. Made a great run to the World Series before losing to the freaking Astros, who I cannot stand. I don't think anyone can. In 2023, however, I really believe your Fighting Phils squandered a golden opportunity to grab a ring. Because, like I'm sure all of you, I fully believe your Phils were better than the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. The Diamondbacks just happened to be red freaking hot going into that series, and the Phillies couldn't get over it. The good news for you guys, it appears that your squad has responded to that disappointment, which it would have been very easy to be like, man, you blew it last year and carry that disappointment into this season. Instead, looks like they have responded with full-on determination. And then seeing Spencer Strider go down, I think the Phillies could smell blood in the water, and you have come out absolutely on fire. Trey Turner, I know he's on the injured list. He'll be back, hopefully. 343 through the 33 games he played, 10 stolen bases on 11 attempts. Bryce Harper, who, like we said before, is only batting .266, so you'd like to see more from a batting average standpoint, but he does have 13 dingers and 42 RBIs. Alec Boehm is still at .308. Look, Alec Boehm was hitting, I think, 360-something for a little while. Alec Boehm was never going to hit 360. I'd be a little surprised if Alec Boehm stayed at 300. But he is still hitting .308. Over to your pitching staff. I mean, Jesus Christ. Ranger Suarez looks every bit the part of the National League Cy Young Award frontrunner right now. It's early. I get it. There's lots of time. But he's 9-1 with a 1.76 ERA. I got to see him live here in Cincinnati back in April when your Phils came to town. And I took our Midwest Eagles Nest group down there. And he was lights out. He was lights out, and I'm not even sure he had his best stuff that night. Okay? And then Wheels and Nola are a combined 12-5 with ERAs of 2.32 and 3.06 respectively. I mean, the top 3 guys in your rotation have been pretty much lights out. Suarez is the number 3 starter, and he's been the best pitcher on your rotation, which is not, it's not cheapening anything because I think Wheels is 6-2 or 6-3 with that 2.32 ERA. So he's been every bit an ace. Aaron Nola is either 6-2 or 6-3 with a 3.06. So he's been every bit an ace-level pitcher in today's Major League Baseball. Then you throw in Suarez, who's 9-1 with a sub-2 ERA. Now, the weakness, Keenan, good call. The back end of the rotation. Right? The back end of your pitching rotation is a little suspect, right? You've got to, which then taxes your bullpen, which is also an area of concern. Right? So we're going to pull up your team here. We're just going to take a quick look at your overall numbers for your pitching staff. So like I said, so Wheeler is 6-3 with a 2.32. Nola is 6-2 with a 3.04. Chris Sanchez is 3-3, but a 2.83 ERA. Taijuan Walker has been horrible. All right. He's got a 3-1 record, but that's literally because he's getting massive run support because his ERA is 5.5. Rangers Suarez 9-1, 1.75 ERA. Sorry, I was off there. Then you go to the bullpen, and unless you're talking about Hoffman, Strahm, Turnbull, Kirkering, and to a point, Alvarado as the closer, but a closer with an almost 3.5 ERA is a little scary. Sir Anthony has been horrible, and Greg Soto has been horrible. So you get a little spotty on the back end of your rotation and in your relief. But overall, I mean, what is there to complain about? 39-18 through 57 games is light years better than where you've been through 57 games each of the last 2 seasons. So congratulations on the hot start. I would like to see it continue. Of course, my first priority baseball-wise is the Yankees. Of course, I want our 39-19 start to continue. But I obviously, from my preseason talks, I believe that the Phillies are definitely the team deeper, more talented overall to be able to continue doing what they've been doing. And like I said last week, what I will not hear, what I will not pay any attention to, are these jagoffs who want to sit here and say, well, the Phillies haven't played anyone. Okay, do you make the baseball schedule? No, you don't. I bet you don't even know what goes into it. Do the Phillies get to pick their schedule like fucking Notre Dame football? No, they don't. Major League Baseball has an entire department that puts together this schedule. So you can only play who's on your goddamn schedule. Okay? That's all you can play. And when you're a good team, you are supposed to bludgeon bad teams or teams that might be good but are just in a rough period. And whether or not you feel the Phillies have played top-level competition yet is freaking irrelevant. They have hammered who they are supposed to hammer. Okay? 39-18 is through 57 games is 39-18 through 57 games. Best record in baseball about a third of the way through the season is the best record in baseball about a third of the way through the season. Having a pitcher 9-1 with a 1.75 ERA going into June 1st, yeah, we're doing something right here, kids. So knock it off. Don't any of you pay any attention to people who are telling, I haven't played anybody. The only thing that does is opens up a conversation for when the Phillies do play the Dodgers, play some first place teams. But you beat the snot out of the Diamondbacks. You beat up the Rangers. These are the 2 teams that were in the World Series last year. Yes, they're having bad starts, but the Phillies have done what they're expected to do. They're a good team that is beating up on bad teams and teams that might be good but are just struggling. That's what good teams do. It's no different than any other freaking sport at all, ever. Okay? Good teams do this. And you take that to the bank. That's it. That's all I got. So, folks, I shouldn't have thrown that yet. That's all I got. I sat here and talked about 45 minutes to an hour. Here we are, an hour and 16 minutes in. For everyone in the room, my mother, Joyce Russ, David Conant for joining us, Keenan Harmon, Captain Demps, who, brother, you're going to have to throw out some better baseball numbers if you want me to start calling you Baseball Cap. Keenan Harmon, Andy Bagley, who else? Fanny came in the room. Mike English for stopping by while he was at the Phillies game. And right at the top, Russ Taylor for bragging about his new hat while he's at the bar with a buddy. This has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and proudly brought to you by the beautiful girls at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia, just minutes away from the sports complex. Call 215-467-1980 for your group and private party packages. Folks, come on back next week. We're going to mix it up as we move forward through the summer. It'll be baseball. It'll be football. It'll be basketball. It'll be hockey. No, we're going to not talk about tennis. No, we're not talking about golf. No, I don't give a flying shit about Caitlin Clark. But what I do give a shit is about all of you. So come on back next Friday. We'll try to have a good time again. And until then, enjoy your weekend. Try to have some fun. Be careful. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Like I always say, that judge will not be back in until Monday. And as always, folks, go Birds. All right, kids, that's enough of that god-awful music. I know Keenan hates it. Y'all take care. We'll talk to you soon. We love you.